Meet Calyrex, the latest addition of legendaries to the Pokemon series, to be released in the DLC. So many of you guys watching this may have just had a red light flash in your mind when you saw those Triforces around Calyrex's neck. Do they have anything to do with Zelda, or is it just a coincidence? What could possibly be the meaning behind those Triforces around his neck? I have your answers, guys. Check this video out and you're going to understand entirely what's going on with those Triforces at the end of this video. I'm a big Zelda fan myself, as many of you may know me from back in my Breath of the Wild days on YouTube. People have already spun to speculate on the Triforces and whether or not that means a message for Breath of the Wild 2 information incoming. Many more of you may have just thought it was a weird coincidence or an Easter egg or just a shameless plug of upcoming games from Nintendo. That's okay, but it's not, and here's why. It may come as a shock to many of you listening to this right now that Nintendo didn't even create the Triforce logo for its Zelda series. It was instead borrowed from history in Japan. For us in the West, the Triforce is little known. It doesn't really have any relevance or importance to our culture or history, so the symbols itself don't really play a particular role in everyday life. We don't see it, or we don't read about it, and it's not used. These days in Japan, because of its historical significance, companies, modern companies, like Delta Machinery and Fisher Skiwear also use this symbol. However, this symbol goes back to about 1,000 years ago in Japanese history. For anyone who's played Shogun Total War, as I have, you'd notice this symbol featuring in one of the clans who you get to play as, and be able to adorn the Triforce on your flags as you enter into battle against your enemy. The clan was the Hojo clan. Back in the 12th and 13th century, the Hojo were quite a force to be reckoned with in Japan. Because of its legacy, companies that I mentioned, and another major company, Mitsuroku, also adopted the symbol of this clan. Behavior like this has definitely made the Triforce a well-known symbol in modern-day Japan, and its use, especially in games like Zelda with sort of historical themes, is of no surprise to those in Asia. Well, the Triforce has a name, and that name is Mitsuroku, the same as the company itself. Mitsuroku translates into 3 scales, which might be emphasized by the fact that the 3 guardians in Twilight Princess also had glowing scales replace the Triforce at a time when it was most needed, which you're seeing right now. Mitsuroku, however, was adopted by Nintendo to emphasize 3 powers instead of 3 scales and move away from the historical significance into a more symbolic power struggle between Zelda, Link, and Ganon. That power struggle has been defined by the Triforce for all of its fans, and for popular culture in the West as well. When Western people see the Triforce, they think of Zelda. When Japanese people see the Triforce, it has a much deeper meaning. Japanese truly revere their history, and it has a very important role for tradition that they still uphold today. And symbols like the Triforce can be seen in very important places like temples, memorials, and even graves. So it's at this point in time, everybody, that we need to ask ourselves what insanity drove Nintendo and the Pokemon Company to use this logo again. The new legendary is Psychic Grass type, but what could the meaning be behind having the Triforce adorn around his neck like this? Perhaps the key lies in the history of Japan rather than Zelda. The Hojo clan was founded in the 12th century, and a century later found themselves at the peak of power, controlling Japan with de facto governmental powers. However, they weren't really much loved for their rule. They were largely responsible for catapulting Buddhism into the mainstream, overtaking Shinto, which was a more popular spiritual relation to nature sort of religion. The Psychic Grass typing seems to me that it would fit in very well with the legacy of Hojo and Buddhism in Japan. One of the key reasons I think the Triforce around this guy's neck doesn't have anything to do with Breath of the Wild or Breath of the Wild 2 is because in Breath of the Wild, the Triforce does not play a feature into the story at all. one of the only places you see it is on some of the ruined buildings or on your shield, and that's it. As the Triforce, like I said, adorns many places of worship, religion, or Shinto in Japan, it's understandable that our grass psychic type might be tapping into meaning behind Shinto and Buddhism. Buddhism can easily be attributed to psychic type because of the emphasis on meditation, which has strong psychic themes throughout the whole Pokemon series. And Shinto can easily be attributed to the grass type because Shinto's relation to nature and the worship of nature spirits. In addition to our big-headed grass psychic type Pokemon, we're being given a new legendary as well, Urshifu, with 2 different types, Fighting Dark and Fighting Water style. Arguably, the 2 forms of this Pokemon and the grass psychic type could be made up to complete, essentially, a Triforce of power that is very symbolic and reused in a lot of Japanese culture and a lot of Japanese games too. This wouldn't be the only time we saw power come in 3s. Throughout all the Pokemon series games, most of the legendaries came in sets of 3. I think you guys know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. Now I know I said this doesn't really have a connection, as far as I believe, to any of Breath of the Wild or Breath of the Wild 2. However, with regard to past Zeldas, it could very well hold the themes of exploration, which is the theme of the second DLC, the Crown Tundra. And you'll be forgiven if you listened carefully to the direct for thinking this does have Zelda ties.
You might find a strange temple where you least expect it, or maybe spy a mysterious giant tree growing in a place it doesn't seem to belong.
But that information could be coincidental because they also allude to plenty of information regarding Calyrex and its connection to possible Hojo ties.
Legends say this Pokemon once ruled over a part of Galar that included the Crown Tundra. It's characterized by its graceful, regal movements.
That sounds a lot like Hojo's history that I mentioned before. Alright guys, let me know what you thought of that. Debunking the mystery of the Triforce around Calyrex's neck. What is the overlap of Pokemon and Zelda really? Or is it just a lashback to Japanese history? I think the latter is more likely myself, but only the mystery of the story of Calyrex is going to tell us more about its connection to which, and we may find that out in November. The release dates appear to be up for these DLCs, guys. They may very well be placeholders, but the real release dates are going to be close enough. For the Armor Isles, it's going to be June, and for the Crown Tundra, it's going to be November. Hope to see you there, guys. Don't forget to drop a subscription, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, bye.